Hello everyone, welcome back to Silas Poecats, or welcome to Silas Poecats, and welcome back to, I cannot believe that doing a master's study in literature while also working 20 hours a week severely impacts my motivation to do anything for YouTube. It's been a while since I made the last video, and I apologize. So, in order to combat my very low motivation to do anything, I have decided that I'm going to be doing another easy content video, as in I don't really have to do a lot of thinking, I just have to do a little bit of yapping and I get to show you some things, and that's it, that's the video. Fantastic sell. So, I thought, because the year is rapidly coming to a close, which I didn't agree to, by the way, that was not my decision. Because the year is coming to a close, we're seeing a lot of videos pop up about here's how to reach your reading goal and like reading goals in general, and I have opinions about that kind of culture and personal experience as well of the recent weeks, I should say, that I've struggled with certain things. So I thought I'm going to be unpacking my newest book box of books. It's not a specific box, it's just books that I've bought that have come in a box. And I will be talking about the books, the decisions on why I bought them, as well as some things I want to implement in the new year. It's gonna come together, trust. So, this is a package of, I think it should be 6 books by Charco Press. Charco Press is situated in Edinburgh, I believe, and they do a lot of translation works. Let me just remove that. Oh my god, they're packaged! I told them not to do Christmas wrappings. That's so cute. I'm sorry. We're gonna have to admire that for a second. Move. Look at that! Oh my god, that's so cute. I didn't know they did that. So on the website, so back off. So Charco Press, oh my god, these are so cute. Charco Press is a publisher in Edinburgh that specializes in translation fiction, specifically, if I understood this correctly, from Latin American countries, which I think is really cool because I haven't really read all that many from that region, and when I have, I've mainly either stuck to one author or maybe 1 or 2 countries. So we gotta switch things up. And for Christmas, they've put on their website, which I will be linking down below for anyone who's still looking for Christmas presents, but they've put, I think, 6 Christmas bundles with like various different themes, short stories, longer novels, because they mainly publish novels that I think are like between 200 and maybe 300 pages, non-fiction. I think there's also one with novels in the original language, so usually Spanish, and or other languages spoken in that particular region. And I don't remember the other bundles. I think there were 6 possible ones. I got 2, one of which should be in translation and the other one should be the short stories, if I remember correctly. But let's get right into it while I talk about other things. So first of all, okay, oh my god, it says so in the back here. So this is the short story bundle. That's cute. I don't know if you can read that. My light might be too bad for this. Anyway, so this is a cute little card. This is the short story collection one. Now, I found Charco Press through something that I want to be making into a project in 2026, because they also do a thing where you can buy their upcoming novels for a discount. I think you pay roughly £10 per book, which right now, a steal, unfortunately. You pay £10 and then they start shipping the books to you prior to their publication date. So I've currently received 2 out of the, I think, 10 that are in the 2026 bundle. One of them is coming out in January and the other one is coming out in March. And I want to try and do a little bit of a project, or was it 9 or 10, where I read the books every month and then tell you what I think about them. But that's how I found them, and then I saw that they do Christmas bundles, also for a discount, and I was like, listen, I want them. I'm trying not to damage this paper because it's so pretty. I want to reuse that. Hold on. We don't throw things away in this country. Oh, there we go. Okay, so here's the first three. These are the short stories. We have Fresh Dirt from the Grave by Giovanna Rivero, translated by Isabel Ade. I don't know what this is about, but I loved the title, so I wanted it. The second one is, keeping with the theme, A Perfect Cemetery by Federico Falco, translated by Jennifer Croft. And the third and last one is Here Be Icebergs by Katya Adawi, I think, translated by Rosalind Harvey. I like that. So that's the translation ones. Now, in case you're keeping up with my channel, like, at all, which I wouldn't blame you if you didn't, because there hasn't really been a lot of things happening on here, but I've started doing a thing for myself, last year, where every year I try and track how many books I buy each month and how many books I read each month, with the overall goal that I want to read more than I buy, because I don't want to end up like one of those people who has, like, a solid 3,000 books on their TBR, no chance of getting to it, and then they keep buying things. Also, this is the non-fiction bundle. This time you can actually read it because it's not in the fine print. That's nice. Now, you might be thinking, Scylla, how's that going for you this year? Horribly, thank you for asking, which brings me to the point of, like, TBR movement in just a second. So, I've had my first big girl job this year. I've started in, I want to say December last year, so I've had it for roughly a year, to be precise. And it's the first time that I've worked 20 hours a week, which also obviously means that it's the first time that I've received a significant salary, because before that I was doing a maximum of 500 euros per month, usually less than that. Anyone living in Germany understands what I'm talking about here, but it had to do with my insurance. Now, I make over 1,000 a month, which doesn't sound like a lot until you realize that I live with my parents, I don't pay rent, and the only obligation I have of money to spend each month is my insurance of like 150 and some other small stuff, which probably adds up to like a roundish 200, maybe 250 if we're being super generous with the budget, which means there's a lot of money left over. And unfortunately, I have the spending habits of a toddler who sees new toys everywhere and wants them very desperately. Oh my god, one of them is massive. Excuse me. So I bought a lot of books. Now, I am a fast reader, okay? I know I am, and I know that some people cannot relate to that. I average 100 pages an hour at the very least. So I thought to myself, hey, even if my spending habits are currently skyrocketing, I'm probably going to be fine. Spoiler alert, kind of, but also not really. So I still think I'm in the minus overall, which is a goal that I always aspire to be at, even if the minus is like -3. Still minus, negative movement, we're happy with that. But I found myself getting incredibly stressed out. Every month, the number of books I would buy would skyrocket as opposed to the number of books I was reading, which especially impacted me once I started my studies up again, because right now I'm actually busy with my studies. Who would have thought that doing a master's degree in comparative literature means that you actually have to read, and possibly also buy, which didn't help the TBR situation, a lot of literature, some of which is really hard to understand and takes you a long time to get into. A novel observation for absolutely no one, except apparently myself. And I found myself getting incredibly stressed every single month when I kept buying a lot of books, and I kept telling myself, oh my god, you really want to be in the minus though, and you really want to do a minus TBR movement. It wasn't really working out. So, we're changing tactics for next year, but before I tell you more about that, let's talk about, very briefly, the non-fiction ones I got. So we have Catching Fire by Danielle Hahn, which apparently is a translation diary from whom, from what? What are we doing here? I see. I think if I understood this correctly, this is a diary of a translator called Danielle Hahn who translates fiction among other things, from the Spanish. If I'm reading this right, let me see. In Catching Fire, this thing, the translation of Diamela El Tid's Never Did the Fire unfolds in real time as a conversation between works of art, illuminating both in the process. The problems and pleasures of conveying literature into another language. Ooh, what happens when you meet a pun, a double entendre, are met by translator Daniel Hahn's humour, deftness, and deep appreciation for what sets El Tid's work apart, and his evolving understanding of what this particular novel is trying to do. That sounds really lovely. Maybe we come back to buying things. I need to also get Never Did the Fire, because I don't have that. I don't know anything about that. Now I wonder if it would be smarter to read this one first, or the other one first. Maybe as a tandem work, that might work. So we have Catching Fire. Then we have... Oh, I was excited about this one. This Mouth Is Mine by Yasnaya Elena Aguil. This is a compilation of essays, if I understood this correctly. This is about indigenous languages and how they are being appropriated, suppressed, essentially, and how people who speak indigenous languages and try to keep traditions alive are kind of like fighting back against this. And I'm really excited about this one in particular because I don't really have a lot of resources yet on indigenous languages. Specifically also yes to Latin America, but like in general I don't really have that much, so I'm really excited about this one. This one I'm gonna keep a lookout for. And then we have the longest one, which is also a anthology of like various different authors, and it is Latin American Feminism Today. We love that. This is edited by Carolina Orloff. And it has texts including by Isabel Allende, Valeria Luisei, Claudia Pinheiro, Cristina Rivera Garza, Jamila Ribeiro, Rita Segato, and a few others, obviously. And this boy is thick. This is the biggest one of them. If we exclude the the glossary and the comment and notes and everything, the end notes, we are at almost 370 pages. Damn. Okay, so back to my point though. As you can see, this is now an additional 6 books on my TBR in various thickness. And yes, sure, 3 of them are non-fiction, and I do read non-fiction differently than I read fiction, understandably so. Even though I do add these to my physical TBR, I give myself a very gracious pass for not being able to finish non-fiction books as quickly as fiction books, unless we're talking about memoirs written in a specific style. However, this is 6 books on the TBR. I have so far managed to read, I think, 5 books in the totality of December, because I am busy. I have things to do. I actually have something to prepare for uni today as well. I'm not done yet with it. I have things to do, and that's completely fine and dandy. But what isn't fine and dandy is the fact that I'm feeling pressured by something that I would like to consider a hobby. And this is something that brings me back to the whole why I get so antsy whenever people start posting things like, if you want to still hit your reading goal, here's 10 short fiction books that you can read to reach those numbers. Please, let's all collectively take a breath and stop focusing on numbers. I'm not saying that you can't log books for fun, and I'm also not saying that I'm going to stop doing the same thing, because I will. And I understand that, talking as someone who's read over 300 books this year, some people might be a bit peeved by this, kind of like in the sense of, oh my god, you read so many books, so like shut up and let people enjoy things. No, actually, I won't. Because even as someone who reads that many books, I get pressured. As I've told you right now, I get pressured by the fact that I buy so many books, because I just didn't start buying books because this is the first year that I have had a lot of disposable income, and I didn't really save a whole lot, and I bought a bunch of books, right? Because that's like my main hobby. It's the main thing I spend money on. And I found myself pressured by this, and I will be honest with you, as much as I like fast reading, and as much as reading over 200 books a year is normal for me personally, I found myself pressured to try and read more books this year because I kept buying more and I tried to be proportionate, and it didn't work. So, we're gonna switch things up in the new year. Number one, I know that book buying bans don't fully work, but I'm going to try and implement a few rules for me to not get as many books, because the sense of my panic, almost, is not coming from the fact that there's books to read. It's that I've set myself the understandable goal of trying to read more than I buy, and the second I start buying more, I get panicked about the amount of books I need to read to make up for it. So, while I don't think I will be stopping to buy books or stopping to receive any books, I have already pre-ordered a couple of books that are coming out in 2026. I have the whole thing going on with Charco Press, and so on and so forth. There's books coming regardless of what I'm telling you right now, okay? So this is not about me doing a zero buy year, but this is about me trying to implement some rules to not get as many books on my plate that I feel the urgent need to finish, despite the fact that it should be fine, right? Because this is a hobby, first and foremost. We don't need to stress ourselves in our hobbies. Did you know that? We can just not do that. And I know that some people say that numbers are the only thing that motivates them, but I'm gonna be really honest with you here. The line between motivation for fun and motivation because stressed is incredibly thin, and as a student right now, the line is practically non-existent, because I only do things when I'm stressed, and I would like to not consistently think about reading only in the context of being stressed. So, I'm not entirely sure yet what the rules exactly are going to be. I'm playing around a bit with having a budget for a month that I can spend on books. Only being allowed to buy one book per every 2 books I read. Like, in retrospect as well, like, I can't pre-buy books, right? So I can't be like, oh, I can buy 4 books in January because I'm going to read 8. No, I have to have read the 8 before I get to buy the 4. You know what I'm putting down here? Something like that. I know that a couple of my friends have also done a, like, 0 TBR thing. It's probably never going to be 0 for me, and that's completely fine, but I'm thinking about doing some of the stuff that they did, like pull books out of jars and see if that works for me. Stuff like that. But I know for a fact that the one thing I need to restrict the most is the book buying situation, because the book reading has never been the problem for me. I've never had a month. Well, okay, that's a lie. I've had times where I just wasn't reading a lot because I didn't really enjoy it. But, like, when I was actively reading, which I was for the majority of my life, I was always reading a lot. The amount of reading I do was never the problem. The problem right now is the amount of books that come into my house. And we're going to put a stop to that as much as possible. So, December, I don't remember if there is still more books coming in December. There might be. There's at least one more Lumicrate book coming, that's a whole different thing. But December is probably going to be the last month where I get a rather large amount of books. Afterwards, we're going to regulate that shit, because once again, the book buying is the problem, not the reading. And it just, having this new stack of books, which I am incredibly excited for, did remind me back again about the fact that I think, as a whole, a lot of, like, bookish communities, whether they be on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, wherever they may be, they love to be focused on numbers, and I think this is partially because numbers are easily tangible, right? I'm not saying that the people who read a lot of books don't understand the books very well, because I would be talking about myself there. I think I understand the books I read. Do I write a dissertation about each of them? Obviously not. But I understand the books I read. This is not about the volume that you read. It's just that it's harder to gain numbers and followers if you do deep dive reviews all the time. It's easier to hold books into the camera. It's easier to do I read so and so many books this year. It's easier to talk about numbers because numbers are very easily graspable for the people who are watching you. But it does also circle back into now numbers being the thing that defines your reading to a degree, even when you're trying to tell yourself that it's not true. Like, the amount of people I see stressing about their TBR, the amount of people I see stressing about the numbers that they've read, the amount of people I see stressing about what other people have read. it's gotta stop. This is a hobby. And even I, myself, who, if you know me privately, I've talked about this for years. Even I, as someone who is very, very staunch, in my opinion, on the fact that numbers don't do reading, and that if you stress yourself about your reading, you need to check yourself. Even I have slowly fallen into that pitfall of thinking that reading is productivity and that you need to match your numbers, and I don't like it about myself. I am perpetually stressed enough as it is. I don't need to artificially stress myself as well with how much I can hallucinate staring at a written piece of paper, okay? We don't need to do that. And by we, I include myself, because I've started to do that. I will probably still have a small reading challenge going for next year. I usually do this thing where I pull prompt cards from my Illumicrate cards. I pulled 12 because 12 books a year is usually incredibly doable. And you can also double up, I don't care. I'm probably going to do that again. I'm going to put it back into... If I can make it public, because sometimes you can't make Storygraph challenges public, I'm going to put it in the description of the next video, where I'm going to be talking more precisely about my plans for 2026, except for what I've currently just told you. So, you know, I will still do a few of these things, and I will probably still document my books, because it is a way of holding myself accountable to a certain degree, but I will not be as obsessed anymore over trying to figure out the best balance between books I buy and books I read. Because once again, the goal is to actually reduce the amount of books I buy. Because at some point you cannot artificially inflate your reading numbers anymore. You will run out of short books eventually that you think you can read in one evening. You will run out of books that will not take you that long to understand. You will run out of books that are not part of a longer series, especially if you are into sci-fi and fantasy, because we love our good series, but they're also long. My point is, you cannot artificially inflate your reading numbers at some point anymore, and you shouldn't put that as your goal anyway. Why are we doing this to ourselves? So, we're going to control the numbers of books that come in. I will still be getting books from the library. I still have a ton of ebooks that I don't read because I consistently forget that I have ebooks because they are on my phone. And everything that's on my phone obviously doesn't exist. Sometimes I wish it didn't. The point is, come 2026, I'm going to reduce the number of books that I buy because it's stressing me out, despite the fact that my idea of trying to balance bought versus read books initially sounded like a good idea. It's just not feasible anymore when you buy a lot of books on disposable income that you actually also kind of want to try and start saving up. So, you know, 2 birds, 1 stone, 3 birds, 1 stone. An entire flock. And 1 stone, poor flock. Anyway. If you've ever experienced something like this, like giving yourself grief over reading goals, and particularly related to numbers, feel free to drop something in the comments down below. Let's hash this out. If you think that you're doing just fine with having numbered goals, try removing the number. See how that works on you. Because I've reduced the number of my Storygraph challenge, and all of a sudden I felt freer. As someone who has always argued that she's fine when it comes to reading challenges, because she doesn't like them. So, you know, maybe check yourself every once in a while, so we can all remember that reading is a hobby, and we don't need to fulfill an arbitrary number in order to call ourselves a reader. Anyway, shout down in the comments down below if there's anything that bothers you about this, if you want to talk about anything here. If any of the books that I've held into the camera sounded interesting to you and you would like me to do dedicated videos, reviews or whatnot on them, let me know in the comments down below. I will probably be talking more about Charco Press in 2026 anyway, like I said. But maybe I can also fit these 6 in there, or at least some of them at the very least. You know, maybe we can fit some of them in there, maybe we can work something out. Until then, remember that you are more than the numbers on your reading goal. Feel free to tell me in the comments down below if there's any more books that you're looking forward to trying and finish this month, or if you've just decided to give up on any TBR and have just decided to mood read anything that, you know, your grabby little fingers can get from your bookshelves. Let me know in the comments down below if there's anything else that you want to tell me about bookish goals, particularly in December when everyone is stressed out of their mind anyway because no one has presents yet. I don't have presents yet. That's a thought for another day. Until then, I hope that you continue having a nice reading experience where you don't judge your own worth by the numbers of books that you manage to read. And I hope that you continue having a nice reading experience. And I'll see you soon. Bye.